This is Sonia from Sonia's Book Talk at the Stickney-Forest Public Library. So we're doing the best books of the decade because everyone's doing it. 2019 marked the end of a decade if you start with 0. And all the booktubers are doing their favorites of the decade. So we got to do it. And be sure to check my best books of 2019 that I put out last month, where I talked about my favorites of 2019. So all the booktubers are like, oh, it's so hard to pick best books of the whole decade, right? Well, duh, but I guess we're doing it. So this does give me a chance to talk about some books that I haven't talked about before and some books that I have talked about before, of course. One I haven't talked about, but that was one of my favorites for a few years after I read it, is The Anthropology of an American Girl by Hilary Hamann. And this is pretty much the only book she's ever written, kind of based off, her life experiences. It's a girl coming of age on the East Coast in the Montauk area. So this came out in 2010. So that's why I'm starting with this one. I read this one. I loved it. I loved the writing. And I'm going to say that probably about all of these books, that the writing is so vivid. Like, that really gets me. If the writing is really vivid and I'm like, oh, that's a perfect description. She is a high schooler and a college girl throughout this book. There is a lot of romance. She grew up in an educated house. Her life wasn't perfect because no one's life is perfect, but she did have, money and education. And so she falls in love, and it's a beautiful book. I just loved it. I love the guy she falls in love with. I think the descriptions are great. But it's really, the writing really is just so perfect, describing, all of her experiences that she goes through. I just think I just loved it. It was my favorite book for a few years. I mean, you might not have even heard of it. I love the cover though, right? Isn't that? It's late 70s, 1980. She's in college. The time period is perfect. So I related, of course, as a girl who came of age in America, and it's a little earlier than when I came of age, but I still loved it. I still related. I thought it was very truthful to life. Okay, I have to go through this fast because there's several books. So going to 2011, I think one of my favorites for sure is The Cat's Table by Michael Ondaatje. This, I think I talked about through the eyes of a young boy who's on a ship alone, going from India to Britain, because to meet his parents who were between Britain and India, I think is what it was. I don't read books twice. So even when I love a book so much, I'm not a person who reads it again because one, it might not be as good the second time. I don't want to risk that. How do you feel about that? Tell me in the comments. Also, though, there are so many books to read. It's very rare that I read a book again. So even though these are my favorites, and I'll go back and read passages, and with all these books, I've underlined passages that are so beautiful. Well, I haven't underlined in these library books, but written down passages. But this was just so charming because he and his friend that he finds on the ship that he becomes friends with, they find their hiding places and they spy on people. And the descriptions of all the people on the ship, again, I love when a character description is just so perfect and vivid. And then he actually witnesses a murder at one point, which, because he's hiding and they don't even know, no one knows he's there hiding. And he, he doesn't really know what even is going on. You're seeing it through his eyes and his limited view. And it was such an adventure for me. And again, the writing was so good. So I have to go through this quickly. We've got a lot of books. Okay, so in 2012, this book, Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Rifka Brunt. Beautiful. Loved it. The critics liked it too. She's not she's not a big author. I think she's written like maybe another one since then. But this was pretty much her first novel. This is 1980s, and a young girl's point of view, teenager. Her uncle dies of AIDS, and she's, trying to get through her grief. She reaches out to her uncle's partner, his boyfriend who survives, and it's just so sad. It's just so beautiful. It's again, vivid descriptions, so good. I think I talked about this in one of my coming of age book talks, so we'll look that up and put the links down below. 2013, only I just read this more recently. March by John Lewis was published. This is his graphic novel, first in a series of the amazing civil rights movement that he was involved in, and actually his group, they spearheaded it. But this one also starts with his childhood. And lately I've heard about him because John Lewis is, he's in the news because he has pancreatic cancer. But still, this book has stayed with me so vividly that when I was finalizing my list and I was like, well, I don't have anything for 2013. It's like, well, that's fine. I have like 2 on 2015. But this one kept coming to my mind, and I'm like, I was realizing, I was thinking about this book, and I was like, I should put this on my best books of the decade, because I'm thinking about it right now and thinking about how good it is. Okay, this goes on the list. So, yeah, very vivid, very moving, and amazing to read about. So, March by John Lewis. So here we are at 2014. We have to have a Stephen King in here because he's the master. And this one blew me away, just with the language, with his colorful dialogue and characters that he puts in every book, where every character is like so unique. I don't know how he does it, but this one has some very interesting characters. I listened to it, so that's why I brought the audiobook. Stephen King's Revival, 2014, sorry. This guy has kind of powers, let's just say, possibly. It spans from like the 50s through, spans a few decades. I'm going to say 50s, maybe starts in the 60s. Again, I don't reread books, so little details escape me, but overall, the impression stays with me because this was just such a good read, and the narrator of this one is actually really good. He, as an actor who I just thought he was like, read this book perfectly. It was great. Like you knew which character he was doing with just slight changes of his voice. So I would recommend the audiobook if you like that. Or just read it, or just read anything by Stephen King because he's so good. All right, so I want to just talk about one more book because I don't want to make this too long, but I will put my whole list down below. Lincoln in the Bardo was my favorite of 2017, and this one defied any books, like any notion of a novel that I had before. It was just so unique with the format and with the premise. And don't let that scare you. Like, it wasn't hard for me to grasp. It wasn't like such a weird premise that it's like, what? No, it wasn't like that at all. It was about grief. It was about regret shown through these ghosts in this graveyard. And Lincoln, around the time of Lincoln, he's grieving his son. Again, the language is beautiful, but also the story, so unique. I still have not read anything like this. By George Saunders, this was the first thing of his that I had read. So this one, awesome audiobook also. Like a lot of actors, multicast, what they call. So those are the books I wanted to highlight today. I will put a few more of my list of the 10 best I talked about my favorite of 2019 already, so I don't have to do that again, I figured. So, those are my favorites of the decade. There's a pretty good balance of men authors and women authors. Just happened. So, even though it seems like I read more women authors these days, this one seemed to be about half and half. So, all right, leave me comments below and join me next time, and have a good reading time. Bye.
If you enjoyed this video, please like the video and subscribe to the Stickney-Forest View Public Library's YouTube channel. Also, like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Stickney-Forest View Public Library District, where great things happen.